and welcome to the Cash Games Locks podcast. I'm Big Italy 42 here, talking about tonight's slate. Some options for you for cash games for FanDuel and for DraftKings. And, with a full slate on tap today, 15 games, obviously some solid pitching options. So you got to make your decisions at the top. Your decision, if you're paying up, you got Zach Greinke in a 6.5 run total, minus 160 against Washington. You've got Matt Harvey as a monster favorite, minus 220, 7-run total at home against Colorado. And then out west, you've got Madison Bumgarner as your other option, minus 131 favorite, 6-run total against Houston. So going to be a tough decision if you're between those three. I think between those three, the guy I'll probably be playing on FanDuel is going to be Matt Harvey. He's been very consistent. He won a guy that's going to pitch you innings, a guy that's going to put you in a good spot to get a win. And Matt Harvey's been that recently. Each of his last 5 starts, at least 7 innings pitched. 3 of those 5, he got the win. And in 3 of those 5, he had 6 or more strikeouts. So Matt Harvey, $11,200. You don't love paying that price tag, but I think he's a very safe option tonight. I mean, you got Carlos Gonzalez on the other side, absolutely locked in, who you're worried about a little bit. But the rest of that lineup, not daunting. It's a very bad road offense. So like Matt Harvey, you can certainly go with Bumgarner. I don't know that I'll be paying 12-4 for Greinke against Washington, a team that's starting to hit. It's not that Greinke's a bad play by any means, but to pay an extra $500 over Bumgarner or $1,200 over Harvey, I'm just not sure I'm going to be doing it tonight. I want to be able to get some decent bats in my lineup. So that's where I'm looking. Catcher options, you have quite a few. This particular lineup, I have John Jaso against Williams Perez. Should be leading off, $2,600. He's got doubles in each of his last 2 games. The guy's been tremendous since taking over the leadoff spot there, returning from injury. And Williams Perez has been terrible against lefties. 378 WOBA allowed. So I think John Jaso, a great option for you. Other options, $3,000 Russell Martin, certainly in play for you there as well. And if you wanted to go a little bit cheaper, another guy I like is Jonathan Lucroy at $2,500 against Dan Herron. If you know me, you know my thoughts on Darren Herron. I do want to get a piece of him where I can. First base options, there's a lot. If Edwin Encarnacion's in, you love him, but fitting him with Matt Harvey is going to be really tough. He's $4,800. So for me, pay down a little bit. Albert Pujols, nice park shift, going to U.S. Cellular from out of Angel Stadium. He hasn't been great recently, but he's been consistent. So this is a guy at his price tag that I'm looking at for cash games. $3,400 gets Carlos Rodon. We know he hits lefties very well throughout his career. So I think due to his price tag, he's a great option. Same exact price, Adam Lind, $3,400. Once again, gets Dan Herron at Chicago. So looks like the power hitters in Chicago seem like the way to go. Some other guys you could consider would be more expensive. You got Joey Votto at $3,600, is in a fine spot as well. I'm really not going to be paying a lot more at first base because I want to be able to get some other decent bats. Second base looks like a punt for me. There's a couple options up top you like. Robbie Cano has some great numbers against Chris Tillman. Cesar Hernandez is another viable option, but he's pretty expensive at $3,300. So for me, I'm trying to save money at second base. That means going down to a guy like Chase Utley at $2,400 against Jeremy Hellickson. Hellickson, reverse blitz pitcher, but also not very good against lefties either. 363 WOBA allowed. A lot of those Philly lefties in great spots. Scooter Gennett's another option. Min salary, should be leading off against Dan Herron. I think I'll probably be going with one of those 2 guys to save myself some money. Enrique Hernandez should be in the lineup. Not a great matchup against Joe Ross, but he's been pretty solid. Filling in for Howie Kendrick. $2,600, not a bad option for him if you wanted to go that route. Third base options, the chalk last night was Jacob Lamb. If you didn't have Jacob Lamb, probably didn't do too well in your cash games unless you made up for it elsewhere. He's got a really cheap price tag once again at $2,500, so assuming he's batting the top half of the order, he batted second last night, he's the guy that you're going to need to play at that price tag. You've got some other options, but nobody that really stands out. I really like Yangervis Solarte at $3,000. He's been consistent, and Michael Lorenzen has been horrible against lefties. One of the worst in all of baseball, 437 WOBA allowed. So, love that price tag, but if he's batting first or second, he is in a good spot. Todd Frazier is $2,900. He's been awful since the All-Star break, but very, very cheap for a good hitter. So if he gets it turned around, he could do that in a big way. Another option, though, Miguel Sano, $2,800, has been crushing right-handed pitching this season. Moving on to shortstop, your chalk play is going to be Johnny Peralta at $2,600. Got to imagine that's who I'll be going with, who a lot of people will. It's the lefty and Jeff Locke. Peralta, if you're chasing game logs, hasn't been great over his last 4 or 5 games, but one of the most consistent performers at shortstop all season long. He's got a nice price tag too. So if not him, if you need cheaper, Alcides Escobar, always the go-to. He just does what he does. He gets you 2 to 3 fantasy points nearly every night, 2,300. Great spot for him against Anibal Sanchez. And if you're paying up, which I probably won't be doing in cash games, you've got options. Xander Bogaerts the best of them, if you ask me. In the middle tier, I guess, at $3,300 against the lefty and Nicolino. You got to love Troy Tulowitzki, but $4,300 is going to be really tough to fit with some other big bats in your lineup. Moving on to outfield, your other options out here. I currently have A.J. Pollock listed as the first guy in my lineup here, $3,800 against David Buchanan. Pollock coming off a monster game last night. 3 hits, a triple, a homer, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. Second straight game with a stolen base. David Buchanan is a bad pitcher. 362 WOBA allowed to righties this year. You want to get some Arizona bats once again. Pollock, Peralta, $100 off from each other. I don't think it's a bad option to get both. You could fit both in this lineup, whatever you'd like to do. But I prefer Pollock. He's a better all-around player, so that's the guy that I'll be looking at. Next up, I have Rusney Castillo, $2,900. I really want a piece of Boston against Nicolino. Don't really want to pay $700 more for Bogaerts than for Peralta at shortstop. So for me, going with Rusney Castillo, I assume he'll be batting first or second tonight. And he's a nice, cheap outfield option. It's got some power, some upside, and I like him quite a bit under 3K. Last outfield option here I have is Lorenzo Cain. He's $3,700, same price as Peralta, so you go Peralta for sure. But, I mean, this guy's just tremendously consistent. Each of his last 3 games, he has at least 1 RBI. He's got a stolen base in that span, got a triple in that span. The guy does it all. $3,700, love him. It's a righty-righty matchup against Anibal Sanchez, but Anibal Sanchez has not been good against righties. 363 WOBA and 16 home runs allowed this season. So definitely a way that you can exploit. And as always, love the consistency of these Kansas City bats. Moving over to DraftKings, obviously you have to play 2 pitchers here, so you got to make your decisions with what you're going to do. You're in the same predicament as on FanDuel. Zach Greinke's $12,000, Madison Bumgarner $11,100, Matt Harvey $10,900. Take your pick with this lineup. You could fit either one. Bumgarner and Harvey, I think they're both very similar options tonight. So this one, I went with Bumgarner at $200 more. Very small difference between the two. And I think Bumgarner has the higher strikeout upside, obviously, against Houston, who strikes out a ton. You would think maybe a little bit riskier if this were a Minute Maid Park, but obviously being at home, huge ballpark there in San Francisco, tend to think that he gives you a nice floor because even when he does struggle, he tends to pitch deep into games like he did against Texas. Second option, I went cheap. Luis Severino, only $5,500. Great first performance against Boston. Didn't walk a batter, 7 Ks, only 2 hits over 5 innings. Only run he allowed was a homer to David Ortiz. He's a nice, cheap way to get some big bats in your lineup around him, so a big fan of his. Catcher options, same guys you were looking at on FanDuel. This one I went with Wellington Castillo at $3,700. Guy's been absolutely locked in. I want some Arizona bats once again against Buchanan. And you're not chasing that triple he had last night when Cody Ash just essentially fell over and Castillo trucked on into third base. But he's got big-time upside. I think he has 7 home runs in his last 11 games, so you got to like him. First base options, once again, Adam Lind, Albert Pujols, both those guys in play. Similar price. I think I'm going with Pujols again at $4,400. Your second base options here, there are quite a few similar guys. I really like Ben Zobrist, who, by the way, is no longer second base eligible on FanDuel. So that's the guy I have in here. Already talked about Anibal Sanchez and his home run struggles this year. Obviously, Ben Zobrist, switch hitter. $3,900 for him is a great price. The chalk, once again, at third base, Jake Lamb. Assuming he's in the lineup, he's not a guy that I love. I don't think he's a particularly good baseball player, but at his price and his ownership, kind of a hard fade in cash games right now, assuming that he gets that nice lineup spot. So looking at him at $3,600 there at third base. Shortstops, Troy Tulowitzki, $4,300, not tough to fit in, when you do punt one of your pitchers. So I've got him in there right now against Kendall Graveman, leading off. I mean, he's been, I won't say up and down. He hasn't had a huge game since that first game in Toronto. Wouldn't be surprised if that game comes today. Obviously, Toronto in a good spot. As you'll see by my next pick here, Jose Bautista at $5,200. Got him in there as well. Homered in 2 of his last 3 games. Guy draws an insane amount of walks, nearly 20% of his plate appearances, so you gotta love that. Also went with A.J. Pollock once again for the reasons I described earlier. And then my other guy here, $3,600 Odubel Herrera. This is a guy with speed, power, usually bats second. He's got multi-hit games in 4 of his last 10 games. A couple home runs in that span as well. I really like him, assuming he's batting near the top of the order. If he's not, for any particular reason, then there's some other options around there. Ender Inciarte, if he's in the lineup, is $3,900. You can certainly consider him. If you're not playing Carlos Carrasco, you get Jacoby Ellsbury for just $38. He hasn't been particularly great. Hasn't even been aggressive on the base paths, so probably not a route that I'll be taking, but you could certainly do that. Yasmani Tomas at $3,700. If he's in the lineup against David Buchanan, he's a fine option as well. And then below that, if you wanted to go with a different lefty from Philly, Dom Brown is only $3,500. I like him quite a bit. Final option around that range being, for me, Gregory Polanco, $3,400. Had some success against Carlos Martinez. We know Martinez struggles with lefties. Polanco stole a base in 2 straight games, hit a homer off Clayton Kershaw on lefty-lefty matchup. This guy is absolutely locked in right now. So that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.